was I thinking about 20? That's how much a board cost back then. So I ruined the whole board. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You have, I'm an outsider. You're just a big star to me, but you've been blessed with all these songs and this great career. I mean, what does that feel like to have that many hit records, that much experience? I mean, you're talking Jimi Hendrix to us was like,
Well,
the Messiah.
Well, first of all, if I'm a star, you're a star, because you have to understand, I'm a reflection of you. See? Just like what you're doing with me, you're going to go back there and put all this together, you pencil whip it, and just like me, I go in the studio, I pencil whip it, and come up with something that pertained to my experience that day with someone else, or some other people. This is your experience with me. Now you're a reflection of me at this point, and vice versa. You know, I might take this experience right here on stage. Everything I'm saying to you, I might say, just use one key word as a theme and take it on stage.
Wow.
So we're both doing the same thing. I'm a star, you're a star.
Never heard it that way.
Yeah.
Can you give me a eulogy to Jimi Hendrix or what his life was about? I have never seen somebody take music as far. When I was listening to him, you got to understand, at the time, I was just a kid and we all thought, well, that's, what do they call it? They called it acid rock or something like that. But now that I'm older, I realize this guy was really a fantastic bluesman, probably the best I've ever heard before in my life.
Yeah. Well, the only problem I have is telling you what he was really about. I can't really tell you that, except for the vibe, the feeling that I had when we were playing together. At that moment is the only the only activity of a feeling that I felt. Other than that, talking with him, like I said, was like talking with the rest of the band. He was just like part of the band. But now Jimmy himself tells you that he's had an experience. So through that experience, I'm only seeing probably the same, getting the same story through his experience as you have, because he didn't really know us that well, and I didn't really know him that well. In fact, I don't even know my band that well, or the band, the guys I grew up with. I don't even know my brothers that well. What did Ray Charles say? And my mother could be lying too.
Oh, I love that one. That was a funny one, yeah.
So I don't really, you can only take account, for your own action, for yourself, and my own experience about me, but like I say, you're a star too, and I don't know your experience, but we are a reflection of each other.
Mm-hmm.
But what comes out of your story would be probably different from what comes out of mine, because again, we just, like we did with Jimmy that night, and what he did for us, we just gave each other a new experience. Every moment is a new experience. But the way you express it, like what you do and what I do and what Jimmy did, that's the phenomenon. I mean, that's the joy, to be able to express it, whether it's a different language or through an instrument, microphone, whatever it be, or through someone else. Tranquility. Hey,
What about future CDs or anything you got plans for television or tours?
We are working on a project for the Starbucks chain right now,
Yeah.
and we're also working on a live DVD. We're going to start doing some recording for a lot of our shows and try to put something on DVD. But we're also thinking about getting some artists that are out today, like Black Eyed Peas, some other groups that have covered our songs before. We're going to try to see if we can get the Smash Mouth that covered our song, or De La Soul. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, we had to come out with what was it called? We called it Rap Declares War. Because so many people sample our music or covered our music, until now we're going to have to get an album called movies done through war music, you know what I'm saying? Because of all the movies. So I'm honored about all that. But I think instead of trying to do a lot of reissues, this time we're going to put a different move on our music this time, and it's still the old music, but we're going to take it with some other artists, the way they would hear it as producers, and how they would take us in the studio and either replay it or take what we already cut and just put it together in a different way, and then put maybe 2 or 3 new songs, or maybe a double album, and those new songs will be live, and that would be part of the DVD.
Oh, that sounds good. I know it'll be a hit if you're at Starbucks or wherever. It's going to be.
Oh yeah, because I'm at Starbucks all the time. So this is not Starbucks, but hey, sorry Starbucks. This is from the venue, and they didn't have your brand, but I'm sure the coffee is Starbucks.
Anything else I didn't ask you that I should have, or that you'd like to add?
Well, you know something, once I write my book, because it's just too much.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot. I mean, we're talking since the beginning of Eric Burdon and War, which was 1968, all the way through to now, and we're talking about an experience that goes all the way back when the parties were hardy. And I was a part of it. So, and there's moments within those moments that I need to depict and set the record straight on some of the history of rock and roll that talks about Eric and about War and people who thought it was Sly and the Family Stone, who was the last band that played with Jimi Hendrix. Some of the books thought it was the Chambers Brothers. Hello, it was Eric Burdon and War. Anyway, and they have to understand, and the reason why it was Eric Burdon and War is because Chas Chandler, who was the bass player with Eric's old group, The Animals, was the one who introduced Jimi Hendrix to the music industry. Hello.
Was that the night before he died, or 2 nights before, or do you know?
He came down to Ronnie Scott's on a Tuesday night, and I'll never forget that because it was Tuesday. We started Monday playing at Ronnie Scott's, and the second night he came down, and he's wearing all black and the black hat, and I like his the crushed velvet suit that he was wearing with the hat, and I complimented him about it. And I'll never forget at the time Eric looked at both of us and said, you guys do look alike. And I said, you mean we all look alike, or do you mean me and Jimmy look alike? So, I don't know. Eric, he always made his funny compliments, and it was all funny. But Jimmy promised that he would bring his guitar the next night, which was Wednesday. So he came down Wednesday, bought his a little amplifier, or I think we supplied the little amplifier, and he just bought the guitar, and he just hooked up, and we just played all night. We did an hour of one song. The blues. Oh. Then after that, everybody went their merry way, man. And then that Thursday morning was when we got the call, and it's just unfortunately that whole situation could have been avoided had his girlfriend not freaked out and had she known what to do, because through experience is what helps people today know what to do when someone is suffocating on their own vomit, And unfortunately, back then, when everyone is doing drugs, and then you see something happening to someone else, you panic, and you don't know what to do, and you make phone calls, and you hear people, but you don't. So that's the type of situation that probably has happened to a lot of people back in those days. It wasn't just Jimmy,
Right.
Yeah. So that's about it for me. I can't remember. It's just too much to remember, man. It's a lot of different things. Like I keep hearing rumors that people telling me I had a big fight with Jim Morrison. It got so bad until people started saying I killed him. Yeah, what is that about? Yeah, I mean, it's the stories, because you have to understand Jim was a great fan of Eric's. And he lived right down the hill behind Eric. And Eric used to throw all these parties. And like I said, people that I knew that was at the party, were Mick. I knew who he was. I knew who Sly was. I knew, I knew all the people that was on Ed Sullivan. But I just didn't know who Jim Morrison was. All I remember is this guy walking in the house with a Superman outfit on. And I wasn't aware of the drugs back then because I just came out of Compton, in Compton, we didn't do all that, I'm not going to even mention what it was. We was doing lightweight stuff compared to them. So when all that was going on, I'm at the party and I noticed that everybody was doing it. And Eric ran into the room and shot a gun and shot the chandeliers out. He was pissed off about, what was going on. And that was during the time we were creating on the piano, trying to write a song. And Jim jumped up on the piano like he flew up there like Superman and stood up there and looked down at us and kicked the lid over our hands and then looked at us. Bet you like to sock me, huh? I said, dang. And I'm looking up saying, is this man crazy? I'm cussing. I'm from Compton now. I don't know you. What's wrong with you? And finally, we got chest to chest with each other. And I went like this. I just put my finger on his chest, and he started going backwards. Slow motion. And I said, dang. And it kind of like took me to a whole nother place. That introduced me to acid. That was my introduction to acid. When he went backwards and he curled up in front of the fireplace while the fire was going, and he curled up into a fetus position. And all I remember is that this girl runs into the door and says, "Where's James? Where's James?" And I'm saying, "Who? Where's James?" I said, "Could it be this guy over here?" And she came and she picked him up. I mean, he was a little guy, and she just picked him up and took him out the door and took him on home. And that was my introduction to acid.
Wow.
And you have to understand, I was only smoking weed and drinking whiskey at the time, back in those days, And then I switched to, and some cheap wine. But, and then I got introduced to good wines, and and it just went on from there.
Wow.
And women.
Well, can I get a couple of promos for